Hi everyone, my name is Susan Russo. I'm one of the instructors with RUTGERS. So I'm happy to spend some time today talking to you about succession planning, and we will also talk about a bunch of other concepts that relate and connect to succession planning. So some of the learning outcomes from the full course include a lot of things that seem separate but are very much connected to succession planning. So we talk about things like the costs of turnover, and we will cover that today as well, because what better way to make a case for an HR initiative in the organization than to be able to show some facts and figures and costs, right? We also want to take a look at the connection between employee engagement, so we will talk about things like mentoring and how we can roll that into a successful succession plan. We will look at key leadership attributes. How do they get mastered? 70% of what we learn by actually doing. So we'll talk about that and how that relates to mastering these key leadership attributes that we need to run a successful business. We'll talk about who should be our mentors. We don't often have a huge number of people raising their hands saying, I think I'd be a good fit. What often happens is you will hear people say, I don't really know if I can do that. I don't really know what it means or what I should be doing. So we'll talk about how to get more folks included in that. We'll also identify who we want to have as mentees. We're also going to look at how we can do this in-house. So there are some great companies out there, if you've got the financial resources and the budget, where you can outsource the whole thing. Most of us do not have that luxury. So the good news is we are able to do these programs ourselves, and we'll talk about how we can do that. All right, so let's take a look at our assumptions around turnover costs. So I've cited for you where these facts and figures are coming from. I chose a 100-person company because that feels about right for the state of New Jersey. I think we're all here from New Jersey today. So we look at a company size of 100. Our 2016 turnover rate was 18%. Now, if you're in an organization where your industry is retail, that number is going to be way too low for you, and that's okay. Retail has historically higher turnover rates, so nothing to worry about. I just chose a national average. We're looking at our very old 2014 US national average salary of $54,000, and then we also need to tack on the other costs associated with an employee, like their benefits. So these are our assumptions going into our turnover calculation. So our results here, losing one person at the average salary in the US, which will still be a little bit low because New Jersey is higher than the US average, keep that in mind. So we still have a startling number here that the annual turnover cost of one employee is over $20,000. So we want to talk to our business leaders about ways to keep good employees in their seats, right? So this is what we come to the table with, the math. Now, the difference between direct and indirect costs, I split that out for you. Your direct costs are things like recruiting, job ads, the actual salary that you're paying someone to sit in a training room. Every time an employee leaves and a new one comes on board, they're sitting in a training room. You're paying for that time. So those are all your direct costs. Indirect costs are things like lost productivity, decreased customer service scores. We can calculate that and the impact on our business. So the indirect and the direct are both here for you. So 18%, 100-person company, we're tipping over $300,000, close to $400,000. So if we can keep two people in our 100-person company, that's where the 2% is, we save over $40,000. We're never going to be able to keep everyone. Life happens, right? People get new jobs, they move, spouses get new opportunities, change of career, retirement, things like that. But can we save two people out of 100? Probably. So let's take a look at some of the ways to do that. We also want to factor in our general employee engagement. So to give you a quick summary on that, it's the discretionary effort. How hard will I try? How much will I go above and beyond what I'm required to do? For the most part, people know what exactly do I have to do to keep this job. Then there's the extra. We want the extra. So we want to also tap into that. It's also connected to our succession planning, our mentoring, things like that. our drivers around engagement. You've got a bunch on the slide here, but also its connection to people. When we talk about loyalty at work, people are no longer loyal to an organization, they are loyal to other people. Does that make sense? So mentoring, succession planning, this is all about building personal connections, loyalty. Keeps people in seats. Job security, we've changed our ideas around job security. We used to think job security is how long can I keep this job? Is this job stable? Am I going to be okay here? Job security now has turned into things like transferable skills. Am I employable? Can I get another job? If I lose this job, if something happens to this company, can I get a new gig? New ideas around these concepts, loyalty and job security. Succession plans. So now let's get into some of the research here. Small businesses. 2/3 of small business owners, no succession plan. What happens if something happens to the small business owner? What are we going to do? Now, it's challenging to ask that question to your boss, right? If you're working directly for the business owner. You know, what happens to us if you're not here anymore? It's a very difficult conversation to have, but we can tackle the idea by addressing other issues like mentoring, succession planning, making people feel comfortable working for us, working as hard as they can for us. It's a training opportunity. We saw on the employee engagement slide, people like to use their skills. These give them the opportunities to do that. Our next bullet here basically explains that if you're at a large organization and you're at the C-suite level or just below it, probably there is a succession plan. Beyond that, not really. So what happens to the folks who are in revenue generating positions or the people who manage those people? I would argue that any people manager should have an identified successor. We don't want to end up in a situation that I call reactionary staffing. We want to be proactive. So an example, reactionary staffing. Bob leaves, no notice, he won, let's keep it happy. He won the lottery. He doesn't need to come back anymore. So we didn't know to expect that. We didn't know he would be leaving. So we kind of have a quick meeting. Well, who's good on Bob's team? Mary's pretty good. All right, put her in. 3 months down the line, we realize Mary's not doing very well here. Mary will probably end up leaving, and we now lost a good employee, right? We identified her as being the successor because she was a pretty good employee, but we didn't give her the tools she needed to succeed. Then we're going to look at this, hindsight being 2020, and say, you know what, we should have had a plan in place. We should have trained her. We should have given her the resources that she needed. We should not have been caught off guard. So that's why these are all critical. C-suite, that's important, but anyone, again, revenue generating position, or if you're a not-for-profit, people who are touching your customers, who are servicing your clientele, you need to have those positions covered, and especially those who manage others. And Forbes tells us it should really be a priority. So we've got a lot of great research around this that unfortunately reveals we're not doing very much of it. So tying it together, finding a solution, a great way to start is through a mentoring program. So the mentor is not going to be someone's direct boss because it's going to be more of an informal, honest conversation. A situation where someone can feel comfortable saying, I'm stuck on this, I need help, or I keep running into this same challenge, I don't know what to do. It's not easy to tell your boss, I don't know what to do. Most people don't like doing that. Mentoring gives us the opportunity to have that more honest conversation and really get valuable information without that fear that we're hurting our careers. We've also got benefits for the mentors as well. So starting with the mentees, we've got higher engagement, we've got things like an expanded network, and the ability to learn the how. So who can think of some common challenges or complaints that we might hear at a high level about a mentoring program?
Keeping the mentors.
Keeping the mentors.
Crown Prince syndrome.
Okay.
What's time for that?
Time. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, some of my...
Say pulling them away from their initial job responsibilities.
You're taking them away from their job, we don't have the time. Just spends a lot of money on that, right? That ties into the time. Or, my favorite complaint is, well, what if they use these relationships to get new jobs? I've never heard anybody who's been in a company for 30 years say, I'm here this long because I just didn't meet anybody else who could get me another job, right? So I would caution against that fear really, causing you to not have a mentoring program. I think it's unrealistic, and I think it's a very outdated mode of thinking. Remember, talking about things like loyalty, things like job security. It's about personal connection. It's about transferable skills. We've changed our mindset around how long people are expected to be in jobs. We understand that things are very different now. We've also got a lot of benefits for the mentors, though. People feel really honored if they're identified as someone who could be a mentor. So if you were to reach out to someone and say, hey, could you mentor me? People feel really proud about that. It ups their game, going back to their levels of employee engagement. Now they also feel a higher sense of responsibility. They're more eager to come to work, make a contribution. We want these things. We saw in the slides before that higher levels of employee engagement directly relate to higher success in the business. I see this as a win-win. I think it's a great solution. And then there's the idea of giving back. A lot of times when you ask someone, well, why did you want to be a mentor? You will hear the answer that someone did it for me. Someone did it for me, and it was important to me to do it for someone else. Going back to our 70%, how do we learn things on the job? This is where we're getting that, and we need that for our succession planning. When people leave an organization, we lose the institutional knowledge that they have. We need that. We can help retain it through these relationships. Okay, so how do we select people? Mentors can be our influential leaders. They can be successful individual contributors. They don't have to be a C-suite level employee. They can come from anywhere. Our mentees, we will look at our high potential employees, and we could really, in the longer class, do a deep dive into this. How do you identify a high potential employee? Looking at things like their performance and their potential. What's critical for business success? What are they excelling at in their roles? So we will spend a lot more time in the full course diving into that idea and tools to use to help you sort that out. Identified successors and requesters. If somebody requests to be a part of a mentoring program, I'm a huge advocate of allowing them to do so. If they want to be mentored at your organization, that shows commitment. I don't want to lose those people. So our mentoring programs, we think about this as one-on-one, right? We have a mentor and we have a mentee. It's a one-on-one relationship. There are other ways to do this, though. You can have mentoring groups or mentoring circles where you've got multiple mentors leading a group. So there's value in that when you've got a group of mentees because there's value in the cohort group. We like asking each other perspectives and opinions on how to accomplish something. So a lot of times people will say, we just don't have enough mentors. I've got 80 people who want a mentor, and I've got 4 people who raise their hands to be a mentor. So that goes back to really recruiting our mentors, but also finding other formats so we can service more. Does that make sense? Okay. We want to have a good match between mentors and mentees, so we will look at things like not a direct supervisor. I also don't like the skip level. I would like them to be disconnected as much as possible to enhance that honesty. Now, if you're in a smaller company, this will be more challenging. I might sway my opinion a little bit if you just don't have the volume of people to do this, and we could talk about that more in depth. But mentors should be surveyed to identify their strengths and the things that they want to share compared to the mentees, and what are they looking to master. Could hear things like public speaking or sales, a product that's a particular challenge for someone to sell. They may want to learn more about that. We should survey them, focus on their developmental areas. I think it's more successful when we're focusing on the things they want to work on, not necessarily the things that we're mandating they work on. Hopefully they're the same, sometimes they're different. And our circles should include multiple mentors who can complement each other. All right, who has questions?
I have a question.
Hang on, Amy, you're second.
How long is the training class? When
We can do these as quickly as a couple hours or a 4-hour. Amy, you have a question?
My question is, does this address both not only your kind of, your business proposition to leadership, but also how to develop it?
Yes.
How to develop the plan itself?
For the most part, companies don't have a mentoring program. They don't have a succession plan. They don't have any of these things in place. So we can start at the very basic.
So the audience for this particular class would be somebody who wants to be able to put together a proposal
Mhm.
and also identify how to structure
Mhm.
a succession plan. Okay.
Yep. I also have a list of resources for you. Sharon, do they have the slides?
we can get that to them too.
Okay, or if not, write fast.
Take a picture of the phone.
Take a picture on your phone.
Yeah.
Additional reading, good stuff.
That's a good idea.
Thank you, Clarissa. You weren't paid to say that, were you? They didn't charge you for coming here, did they? Okay.